The heavily compressed 2020 NBA offseason is not exactly over, as evidenced by point guard swap between Russell Westbrook and John Wall. Most teams have made the last of their major transactions though, and since the preseason starts Friday, it hardly feels premature to evaluate what's happened. What follows is a review of the significant moves that were made in the 2020 NBA offseason so far. A disclaimer: these rankings are not scientific and they are not meant to signify simply which teams have set themselves up to win a higher percentage of their games or have a better 2021 championship odds. Contenders and rebuilding teams must be judged by entirely different criteria, and splashy signings typically come with real trade-offs. In other words, it's not particularly useful to compare the Lakers' offseason to the Thunder's or even the Hawks, but this exercise demands that one of them must be deemed superior to the others. The champs gave up the number 28 pick for an upgrade at point guard, knowing they could use the biannual exception to replace the 3-and-D guy it traded. They got discounts on 2 free agent centers who are much more talented than the bigs they had last season. They re-signed a starter and a reserve who played key roles in their title run. All this adds up to a team that has a higher ceiling on offense, is less reliant on its superstars, and can throw lots of different looks at opponents in the playoffs. Number 2, Philadelphia 76ers. It's unclear that Philadelphia got the best player in either of its 2 major trades, and yet it appears much improved as a team. New general manager Daryl Morey quickly simplified things for the new coach and the returning All-Stars, and might have set the Sixers up to be among the elite on both ends. He also gave his front office much more financial flexibility in the coming years. Phil picked up a solid backup center at the right price too, and it might have found a steal with the number 21 pick, a 19-year-old guard who defends like crazy and, in time, could be a dynamic offensive player on and off the ball. Number 3, Atlanta Hawks. Atlanta was the NBA's busiest team in free agency, and it is coming for a playoff spot. Its all-star point guard now has all sorts of help, a backcourt partner who can both shoot and create, a crafty veteran forward overqualified for his 6-man role, a 34-year-old backup who can keep things organized, and a 26-year-old combo guard who reinvented himself as one of the best ball hawks in the game. The front office might have also nabbed the best big man in the draft. The team acquired 2 of the best players available in the free agency, and it unequivocally did what it set out to do. It might, however, have done too much. Maybe the 26-year-old ball hawk could have played point with the second unit, rendering the 2-year for the 34-year-old Rondo unnecessary. Maybe the presence of the crafty veteran forward will hamper the development of the 2 forwards that the Hawks drafted in the top 10 a year ago. Such an aggressive series of signings signals that development is no longer the top priority. Number 4, Phoenix Suns. A future Hall of Famer saw enough in the bubble to want to go to Phoenix, and the front office saw enough in the bubble to trade for a 35-year-old point guard and go all in. The Suns then used its mid-level exception on a 2-way stretch 4, used its biannual exception on a combo guard coming off a career year, added another rotation caliber guard for the minimum, and re-signed 2 of its own free agents to reasonable contracts. As a result, a postseason berth is likely as long as the former number 1 pick in the middle continues to grow. All in all, an undeniably successful offseason, even if you're skeptical that their draft night reach will work out as well as last year's did. Number 5, New Orleans Pelicans. If you're not a contender, then trading a 30-year-old guard for the first 3 round picks and 2 swaps is a massive victory. New Orleans also managed to extend its 23-year-old All-Star without surrendering a player option. Good stuff all around. The decision to trade for a 27-year-old center and extend his contract for 2 seasons, however, is worth examining. He will fortify the Pelicans' defense to the delight of their new coach, who has said this will be their focus. Their lead executive has already raved about his competitiveness, a quality they lacked in the bubble. It is a hefty price to pay for a non-star center, though, and they've sacrificed flexibility so they can fight for a playoff spot that is far from guaranteed. Number 6, Boston Celtics. Nothing about this went perfectly. Boston agreed to the most player-friendly rookie extension possible, and it had to give up a couple of second-round picks to turn a free agent departure into a massive trade exception. It added a tough center with its mid-level exception, and it signed a good backup point guard who can start in a pinch if the all-star at his position isn't healthy, but it will be relying on internal improvement to make up for what it lost. Don't forget that trade exception though. If the front office uses that to add a difference maker, then this offseason will look drastically different.